Hello and welcome to my presentation on Lev Vygotsky. So first, who was Lev Vygotsky? Lev Vygotsky was a Jewish Soviet psychologist. He was born in 1896 and died at only 37 years old in 1934 due to tuberculosis. So what did Lev Vygotsky do? Lev Vygotsky gained his fame through his famous theory, the sociocultural theory. Vygotsky also argued that social and cultural interactions are critically important to the development of a person, specifically a child. The sociocultural theory had two key points, which are known as the zone of proximal development and the more knowledgeable other. Vygotsky's first key point was the zone of proximal development. So, the zone of proximal development has three different zones. And first, there's the comfort zone. So the comfort zone represents how much a child can do without assistance, things that are almost human nature. The child develops in this zone, but at a very slow pace. Then there's the panic zone, and this zone represents everything that a child can't do, even with assistance from somebody else. Finally, there's the learning zone, also known as the zone of proximal development. This zone, which is clearly stated in its name, is where most of the development in children occurs. But the child can only develop when they receive help from a more knowledgeable other. But what is the more knowledgeable other? The more knowledgeable other, which is the second key point of Vygotsky's theory, is a person that a child can go to receive help. Vygotsky theorized that children develop the most significantly when they collaborate or communicate with somebody who is more capable at doing the task that the child is trying to learn. The more knowledgeable other provides new information and influences the student, which in turn helps them to develop. However, Vygotsky theorized that the more knowledgeable other can only influence and increase the development of a child when they do not directly help the student learn. And by directly help, I mean by giving answers to a worksheet without letting the student critically think for themselves. This process where the teacher doesn't directly help the student, but instead just gives them a little push, is also known as scaffolding. Vygotsky also found that inner speech was closely related with external speech, meaning language. So the way a child thinks to themselves in their heads is developed as a result of communicating while using the language that they are being exposed to. For example, almost all cultures see that the bathroom is something that is private and a place for personal space. So, as the child uses external speech, they automatically learn through social cues that the bathroom is private. They are able to subconsciously know that this place is private, even without being directly told that it is. And that is internal development, because the child becomes more aware of their own thoughts, personality, and actions. Now, when and where did Vygotsky develop his theory? Vygotsky began his studies of the sociocultural theory in 1913 at the University of Moscow. Here he studied psychology, linguistics, sociology, and philosophy. From there, he became a psychology and logic teacher at a school in his hometown of Gomel. In the schools that he taught at, he began observing his subjects for the first time. Unfortunately, he died in 1934, and his studies were not finalized and released to the public until many years later. Now, why did Vygotsky develop this theory? When Marxism replaced the dictatorship, people began to do things that would benefit society rather than themselves. Vygotsky's interpretation of this was to find how he could fix and understand educational problems of his time. He believed that better results could be produced from education, and he wanted to see these results come to fruition. So how did he develop his theory? Vygotsky got his data through observing school children when they were doing tasks in the classroom, and especially while they were out playing at recess. He observed them through the years to see how different teaching techniques and methods could enhance the development in them. And to wrap it all up, what was Vygotsky's impact on education? Because of Vygotsky, we see more classroom leadership. Plus, teachers are now strongly encouraged to include more interactive and hands-on activities in the classroom. In classrooms, we also see playtime, where students are able to develop their inner speech and imagination so they can better control their physical actions. We also see more small group learning as well, instead of the old school method where there is no group collaborations. And finally, students are encouraged to work out problems for themselves, and teachers are taught not to just give the answer right away, but instead let the students critically think for themselves. So we now see more communication, more debates, and even more playtime as seen in school. because the socio-cultural theory states that development comes from the students' social and cultural interactions in their communities.